Hi, I'm Grant Rodiak. I'm one of the designers of Havoc, and I'm here today from Portal Games to tell you about Havoc. Havoc is a new 2 to 4 player, card-driven, asymmetric war game that's releasing at Gen Con 2016. Today we're going to talk about some of the factions, starting with the Trogs.
This planet belongs to us.
The Trogs are the native species to the planet. You see, the humans have come to the planet to exploit its resources for profit. The machines have come because they've detected life signs, and they're trying to destroy all life. The Pilgrims have come to study and experiment and figure out how they can evolve and use the resources of the planet and the other species to their advantage. But for the Trogs, this is their home. The Trogs are not a super advanced species. In fact, they are the lowest technical species. You could almost compare them to the Zerg in StarCraft, but instead of being bug-like swarming creatures, they're huge, hulking, ape-like swarming creatures that still use guerrilla tactics and brute force to solve their problems.
Beware of the hordes.
All of the skills and buildings and structures of the Trogs support this theme of creatures who will come out of the darkness and ambush you, creatures who will stop at nothing to protect their home. You have some skills where you can remove units from the board to add new Trog War Party tokens to the board. The Trog War Party tokens, when another enemy unit will move into them, will add some unknown number of units and crystals to the board. This means you can create a fog of war effect, and in fact with another skill you can continue removing units to move these war parties around so you can gather them up. Why would you want to remove these units? Well, in Havoc you have a very finite pool of resources, so if you could actually remove a bunch of the units, you then have more flexibility on where you can deploy them, and you could then surprise your opponent with a bunch of these war parties. The Trogs can also adapt to the environment, so if you're fighting a lot in the mountains, you can actually get rid of your mountain cards and swap them for swamp cards, so you can evolve your deck that you build based on where you need to fight. And finally, the Trogs can also shut off the ability of their opponents to use tactics cards. This means it doesn't matter how good the technology of the machines, it doesn't matter how good the technology of the Pilgrims is. With the Trogs, they can shut that down, which means it's just a numbers game. The Trogs will always beat you on numbers if the Trog player knows what they're doing.
This is our land.
The structures of the Trogs also support their guerrilla war effort. They have several tunnels, which you start the game all over the map with. And Trogs, unlike the other species, treat regions with tunnels as adjacent, which means you can go from one side of the planet to the other very quickly with a very large force. Remember those war parties? You could pop them up, then use those tunnels. They also have the brooding pools, which lets you create new units on the board using an alternate resource. So if you don't want to build as much, you can do that instead. And finally, they have traps. They know the territory, they know the terrain, they can ambush and trap the others. So typically a structure cannot be used if your opponent moves into the space and takes it over. However, with the Trogs, you can still activate your traps. You can leave some treats behind, which means that your opponent moves in, takes over the space, you can retreat, destroy them with the traps or weaken them, and then move right back in with your units. So the Trogs are all about brute force, guerrilla warfare. They are primitive aliens, but their fists get the job done. So that's the Trogs. Havoc releases at Gen Con 2016, and we're going to release more videos on the humans, the Pilgrims, and the machines, so stay tuned and come find out more about Havoc.
We will crush you.